Nikki Freeman is a 40-year-old man with the body of a 10-year-old child. Gabi Williams is 6 years old, but is the size of a newborn. They share a mysterious condition that affects their ability to grow and develop. For every 4 years, they seem to age only one, baffling medical experts.
Really, we've drawn no conclusions whatsoever about her diagnosis.
It's a condition that has no name, and which has been seen in less than half a dozen cases around the world. Now, for the first time, one doctor might be able to give the family some answers. Just what is this mystery condition? Is it genetic? And could it be a threat to their children's children? For one of them, it will take an 11,000-mile journey and a life hanging in the balance.
There's always a chance from anesthetic that something can go wrong.
You waking up, Nicholas? You waking up?
In southern Montana, it's a typical morning for the Williams family in a Billings suburb. Sophia, Anthony, and Alina are all having breakfast while Gabi has her diaper changed.
All right. You're done.
Gabi Williams seems younger than her siblings, but in fact, she has just celebrated her 6th birthday. She is second oldest of 4 children, but is growing less than 1 year for every 4 of theirs, and is still mentally a newborn.
Good girl, you're hungry, huh? Gabi just turned 6 last week. She still weighs 10 pounds. She still eats every 3 hours like a newborn. Kind of smiles, but not a whole lot. So I think we would put her in the classification of newborn to 3 months or so, huh?
I'd give her a little more maybe, but
Would ya?
yeah, I would. Just knowing from where she's came from, I think, yeah.
She likes that.
I know, she likes her lotion rubbed in, doesn't she?
Ever since birth, Gabi has presented doctors with a remarkable puzzle.
Wintertime.
At age 1, although blind and severely disabled, she was at least able to feed like a normal baby. But by age 2, as Sophia grew past the toddler stage, Gabi stayed the same. A couple of years later, Anthony arrived, but Gabi, aged 4, still looked like a baby. Then came Alina, with Anthony a toddler and Sophia in school, and Gabi was 5, but still in diapers and still appeared to be 3 months old. Now Gabi is 6, and the second oldest, but she still looks the youngest by far. To get some fresh air, the family is taking a short hike along the banks of the Yellowstone River. But an outing like this seemed impossible in Gabi's first days.
Gabi had a real scary birth. Once the doctor took her out of me, she wasn't breathing, and they brought in the whole crew to get her going again. And then we thought she might be okay for a while, and then she wouldn't eat, and then she had all the testing to figure out what's going on, and they sent her home and said, yeah, you better get her home because I don't think this baby's gonna make it for very much longer. And we took her home and decided, yeah, we'll just love her for what she is from day to day, and she's still with us. Tougher than the most of us, I always say. Tougher than all the rest of us anyway, huh? She goes with us everywhere we go. I don't think we've ever not brought her when we go outside doing anything.
Okay, get on my back.
No!
You did it.
Not good. I'm not watching. Sophie's not
Take
watching
off your
either.
gloves if you have to. There we go.
Oh my gosh.
Get off.
Gabi participates in everything the family does. But she still faces each day living with an inexplicable condition that has left her blind, unable to speak, and functioning like a baby. After 6 years, doctors are no closer to understanding why.
We've followed her developmentally and also just her health issues, and she's kind of confounded us. We really have never come to any conclusions.
10,000 miles away in Western Australia lives another individual with a similar condition. Nikki Freeman is 40 years old, but is trapped in the body of a 10-year-old. He's aging the equivalent of just 1 year in every 4, and no one knows why. Like Gabi, Nikki was born blind and was close to death for his first few months. When he was a year old, he began to say his first words, Mommy, Daddy, Teddy. But at 14 months, he mysteriously stopped talking and has never spoken since. At the age of 19, he was the same size as his 5-year-old sister. He only reached puberty as he approached 30. And as his younger siblings grew at a normal rate, he continued to weigh just 44 pounds, the size of an average 10-year-old.
They took an x-ray of Nikki and they said he's actually growing 1 year in 4. And a friend of mine said to me, what's the life of man, 70? Does that mean he's going to be 280? Hey, Nick?
Most of the time, Nikki Freeman lives in a care home. But on weekends, he often goes home for a break with his mom, Kayleen.
When I do bring him home, it's usually just, we pretty much do nothing. Nikki time, which is great.
And for Kayleen, these moments are especially precious.
I've had 2 bouts of cancer, and it's all in my lymph system, so it's going to come back. Sort of think, okay, well, if he's going to live for a long time, he has to be somewhere where he likes to be and where people know him. And, you know, when I do die, he won't notice it too much. Yeah.
Kayleen lives in the small town of York in Western Australia. Local doctors have no clue as to what caused Nikki's condition and no idea what his future holds.
Yes.
And because he doesn't speak and cannot see to read and write, doctors have no real way to gauge his mental ability. They don't even know if he experiences time the same way as everyone else. But Kayleen is convinced he understands more than people would imagine.
If you're sitting around and there's people just having a conversation, they talk about something or other, he will burst into laughter. You know, he'll pick up on what you're saying. Oh. One of the things he really, really loves, having a massage. He comes over to you and shows you where he wants his back rubbed.
Nikki also knows exactly how he likes his tea. He'll wait until it's the perfect temperature. He also knows how he likes his music, loud and fast.
Good. He has great body language, our Nick. If he doesn't want something, you can't get him to do it. No. If he doesn't want it, he doesn't want it. It's peaches and ice cream, Nick. When he's hungry, he can eat 2 plates of food. He'll have 2 of what a man would eat. It's unbelievable.
For 40 years, Kayleen was given no clue as to the cause of Nikki's perplexing condition, and no idea if there was a chance of a diagnosis. She just loved him for who he is, and nursed him as best she could. But recently, her daughter has gotten married, and Kayleen now fears that Nikki's condition could be in her genes.
I think the biggest thing is that Nikki's condition is not genetic, that it's not something that I've handed on to my children that have children. I'd like that question to be answered. There it is.
Before she dies, Kayleen would love to find out what has slowed Nikki's growth and put her fears to rest. Coming up, Gabi's parents are also desperate for answers as to why she won't grow.
Finally, it got to the point where we realized it doesn't matter what nutrition we're getting in her, she's not getting any bigger.
And Nikki's got a surprise visitor, his little brother Lloyd, who's planning a journey that will change their lives forever. 40-year-old Nikki Freeman is trapped in the body of a 10-year-old child, and doctors have no diagnosis for his lack of growth. Gabi Williams is 6, but has the body of a newborn and weighs just 10 pounds. For the Williams family, Gabi's condition also remains a mystery.
How's she been being?
She's been pretty good.
Her pediatrician sees her regularly for checkups.
Hello, sweetheart.
Although she's past kindergarten age, the doctor asks the questions that are relevant to a newborn child.
So she's been taking her bottle okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep, drinking well.
Yeah.
Her sister gave her a new tattoo.
Oh, that's a special one.
You know, we were in denial for quite a bit about a lot of things that was the reality of it.
Denial's the word of it, though. We just didn't know what to expect, and we still thought that she would get better and that we fix it. And we would work on what can we feed her to make her grow. And then we realized it doesn't matter what nutrition we're getting in her, she's not getting any bigger. She was 10 pounds every time we went in to weigh her. So.
An average 6-year-old girl weighs 43 pounds and is around 4 feet tall. Gabi still weighs just 10 pounds and is less than 2 feet tall. Her condition is so new to science it has no name and has baffled everyone who's examined her.
She's had multiple tests done, geneticists, neurologists, about every organ system was representative. But I think in final analysis, really we've drawn no conclusions whatsoever about her diagnosis.
But almost 2,000 miles away in Tampa, Florida, there is one scientist who may be able to unlock the secret of this mystery condition. Dr. Richard Walker has been fascinated by why we grow old since his undergraduate days.
My whole career has been focused on the idea that there's a mechanism for aging. It's a topic that's been with us since we've been thinking and since we've been looking in a mirror and seeing ourselves get older and older. It's something I think that fascinates humankind.
Today, a greater percentage of the population is old and active than at any time in human history. But we are still gripped by the fact that we have to age and die.
No other animal really worries about aging because they don't view the future as being anything beyond the next meal. Human beings have this need, I think, to understand their future.
After 50 years studying the science of aging, Dr. Walker was astonished to discover there are people who don't seem to grow old. He's been in touch with both families, as he believes with today's latest technology, he may be able to give them some answers. Although he knows a cure is unlikely, even if he can identify the cause.
Up until recently, I don't think there was any answers for us. We know Gabi is who she is. They're not going to develop some medicine to make her start growing. For our children's future and their families, is there something that can be identified as that cause of why she doesn't age?
It's kind of exciting to have some new path to travel down and look at.
John and Mary Margaret have 3 healthy children. Like Kayleen Freeman, their biggest hope is that the condition is not due to a genetic flaw that can be passed on to future generations. In Perth, Western Australia, Nikki Freeman, the blind 40-year-old, is back in the care home where he's lived for the past 10 years. Today he has a special visitor, his younger brother Lloyd, who lives in a remote corner of the country and only gets to see his older brother once every few years.
He seems to be having a pretty good time in his own world. He knows we're there and that we love him. It's hard not to get a response that we are used to getting off people when you ask those questions or the you impart those sort of feelings onto somebody. You know, that's something that we're missing out on.
37-year-old Lloyd is here to join Nikki and Kayleen on the journey of a lifetime. They're heading to America to try and find the cause of Nikki's enigmatic condition. The next few weeks will be a rare opportunity for Lloyd to get to know his elder brother better. But will the journey reveal the answers the family is desperately searching for? Coming up.
Will he object to getting blood drawn?
Possibly. If he doesn't want something done, he will not do it.
That might be our next crisis.
Come on.
Six-year-old Gabi Williams is less than 2 feet tall, when the average for her age is almost 4 feet. 40-year-old Nikki Freeman is 4 feet tall, when the average for his age is almost 6 feet. Both have an extraordinary syndrome that slows their growth to a remarkable degree. In Western Australia, Nikki's mother and brother plan to take him on an 11,000-mile journey to try and find the cause.
Hey, Nick, dinner time.
To send him off in style, his care home have prepared Nikki's favorite dish, curry.
Curry tonight, Nikki.
Oh, yeah. I love the hot stuff, don't you, mate? He's been dealt this bad card. Sometimes I do see things in him, especially when we're just sitting there by ourselves. It seems like he's getting what I'm on about, and that makes me sad that he can't respond like anybody else. Not hot enough for you? All under control, mate? No? Is that enough? That's it? You sure? Come on, Nix.
That evening, younger brother Lloyd takes Nikki to meet their mom, Kayleen, to discuss the trip. Lloyd knows his mother is nervous because the last time Nikki was seriously examined by doctors to reduce a swelling of his brain, it was disastrous.
They actually put a needle into the spinal cord, really, right up near the brain. Well, I could hear Nikki screaming. I have spoken to someone who'd had it done, and he said it's the most excruciating pain, because they didn't do any anaesthesia or anything with it. And it was after that procedure that he stopped talking.
With this behind her, Lloyd is surprised his mother has agreed to the medical tests in Florida.
We're setting out into unknown territory here, really. Mum's terribly protective of him. You know, she was once bitten, twice shy. I just hope Mum doesn't freak out too much.
I am a bit worried. They talked about an MRI, but I mean, Nick is not very compliant as far as lying down to have an MRI. They would, I think, have to give him a whiff.
Might need a sedative, yeah.
Look at the nod.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah. Probably knows exactly what we're on about and what's going on.
By 10 p.m., the Freemans are ready to embark on an 11,000-mile flight that will see them in the air for 22 hours. For 40-year-old Nikki, this will be the longest journey he's ever undertaken, and his first visit to the United States. The journey that might finally solve the mystery is about to begin.
Where's family? All right.
Okay. Where do you want to go first? Of course, I knew you were going to say that. If anybody
In
has to
Billings,
go potty, you
Montana,
should stop.
the Williams family is out shopping at the mall with 6-year-old Gabi.
Look at this pretty dress, Mary Marg. Look at that. Wouldn't Gabi look pretty in that?
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
fur. Ooh.
I think that'd be too big for her, though. We have to get baby size 0 to 3 or 3 to 6, depending on the length of it. I always like to look, too, for something that makes her look like a 6-year-old and not just a baby. Look at these hats. Do you want to try on a new hat? Huh? Do you want to try? Most strangers notice she looks like a baby in a car seat. Peek. Do you think that's a little big, huh? But then she has that long hair and they say, oh, look at that baby's hair. We've had people argue with us. They say, 6. Oh, you're kidding me. That's not right. That she can't be. She can't be. Some of them, I think, don't know what to say, so they just say, oh, okay, and then quickly, move on. This is Gabrielle. She's our 6-year-old babe. Come here for a minute. Gabby's the older sister of those two. Yeah, and that's Sophia. They're 14 months apart, Sophia and Gabrielle.
Really? Mm-hmm. She's cute for being so tiny. I love tiny babies. My baby's tiny too. I just want to hold her and kiss her and love her.
For some reason, the sales assistant doesn't seem to grasp that Gabi is 6 years old.
Yeah, do you like it?
But when she appears in public, there can be all sorts of reactions to Gabrielle.
I remember the time we were at the home improvement show, and they were selling dolls at one of those kiosks, and we were carrying around there. And there were so many people that thought that was one of the dolls that you bought. Oh,
that one lady
nice
felt
doll.
her.
And they had to come up, and that's not a doll.
Yeah,
it's like, no, that's our little Gabi, so. Yeah. She brings us humility and patience and understanding. She still needs the same thing that most people need: affection, love, people to care for her. She may not be able to give that back, but we kind of look at that as a gift for us.
Gabi lives at a different pace to anyone else, but John sees this as a positive lesson for those around her.
I think helps her brother and sisters in their development, in their growth, about understanding some differences in people and respecting that.
It's been 2 days since they left Australia, but the Freeman family has now arrived in Tampa, Florida. It's here they hope to find the cause for Nikki's condition that makes him age just 1 year in every 4. Nikki senses it's a big occasion.
All right, mate, you ready to go in the car?
For Kayleen, 40 years of doubt and questioning may soon be over.
As a mother, you think that it is your fault. I do accuse myself of causing Nikki's problem. I'd like that question to be answered.
Kayleen, Nikki, and Lloyd arrive at the All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg for their appointment with Dr. Walker.
Hello, Mrs. Freeman. I'm Dr. Walker. I'm so pleased to meet you. Good to see you. And this must be Nicholas. Hello, Nicholas. Hello. How are you? I'm Dr. Walker.
What we're going to do is to run some genetic tests and run some laboratory tests, and hopefully we'll be able to determine the general cause of his condition.
These are the words Kayleen has been waiting decades to hear. And Nikki seems to understand his mother's need to know as well.
Yeah, this technology, man.
I think we've found the people who maybe can give us some answers, which will be wonderful. I feel good.
But down in the hospital lobby, Nikki appears apprehensive. And Dr. Walker is suddenly worried about taking blood for the genetic tests. How will Nikki react?
Will he object to getting blood drawn?
Possibly.
It's essential that we get blood to make your trip worthwhile, actually, just to see.
Yeah.
If we don't get any blood, we won't be able to do the genetic studies.
If he doesn't want something done, you will not do it.
That might be our next crisis. Yeah.
Coming up.
We have clearly abnormal development of Gabi's brain.
Does not like needles. He's been able to grab an IV out. It took 4 people to actually hold him down. Now let go, sweetheart.
Nikki Freeman, a 40-year-old man who ages 1 year in every 4, has come all the way from Australia to Florida with his mother and younger brother. At the All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg, Nikki is about to undergo a series of tests to try and explain why he won't grow normally.
Nikki, you have to be a very good boy because they're going to take some blood.
But if the nurse can't take Nikki's blood, their journey will have been in vain.
Does not like needles. Past experience, he's been able to grab an IV out. You let it go, Nick. Took 4 people to actually hold him down on the bed. And come on. He's a fighter. Now let go, sweetheart.
Nikki is blind and can't see what is going on, so initially he won't cooperate.
Can I see your arm here? Will you let me see it?
Good man, come on. That's
okay, thank you.
Come on,
thank
sweet.
you. All right.
Oh, look.
All right,
really
very good. Okay, here we go.
No, no,
Nick. Aye, Nicholas.
Come on, Nikki. There you go, mate.
That's it, that's it.
But eventually he seems to understand and allows the nurse to put the needle in his arm.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, big guy, huh?
That's a good man.
Oh, you're wonderful, Nick.
That's it, sugar.
With the body of a 10-year-old, Nikki's veins are very narrow, so it takes a while for the blood to flow.
You're doing a great job, Nikki.
Yes, he is.
Nearly there, mate.
It's a frustrating moment for Nikki. But with his blood drawn, the genetic tests can go ahead.
Yeah, it's all right.
This will give doctors one piece of the puzzle. But to fully understand Nikki's condition, he will also need an MRI scan, something he's never had done before. And for this, he will have to undergo anesthesia, a risky procedure given that he's a 40-year-old man in the body of a child. In Montana, the Williams family is picking pumpkins for Halloween with 6-year-old Gabi, who still has the body of a newborn baby.
Gabi got this little cute wrap pumpkin.
Good, perfect.
A couple of weeks ago, they sent Gabi's scans and medical records to Dr. Walker so that he could analyze her case alongside Nikki's without needing to see her in person.
We know that she was born with several conditions that are not normal. She had dysmorphic features. That means her face is not shaped exactly normal. Her ears are positioned slightly abnormally.
And from her MRI, he finds an astonishing difference between a healthy brain and Gabi's.
We have clearly abnormal development of the brain. If we were to look at a normal brain, these regions, the cortical surfaces, are convoluted. You can see they're clearly detailed. And then when we compare these to Gabi's MRI, we see that the frontal region of her cortex is smooth relative to what we expect in a normal condition.
Gabi has brain damage, is blind, has serious motor problems, and difficulties with her digestive system. Dr. Walker can see what is wrong, but has no idea what is the cause. He plans to do another test. He's going to look at Gabi's chromosomes to see if they can provide the answer. Next day in the All Children's Hospital, Nikki Freeman is about to go for his MRI. The only way to keep him still enough for the scan is to sedate him, but that's risky because anesthetic dose calculations are based on body size and age. Nikki is a 40-year-old who weighs just 44 pounds instead of the average 181.
21.2 kilos.
Yet getting the correct dose is crucial. Otherwise, he might never awake from the anesthetic.
29.5 centimeters.
Coming up.
You waking up, Nicholas? You waking up?
There's always a chance from anaesthetic that something can go wrong. You know, things just shut down and that's it.
40-year-old Nikki Freeman and 6-year-old Gabi Williams both suffer from a mysterious condition that slows their rate of aging. For years, doctors have been baffled as to why. Now, Gabi and Nikki are being assessed by Dr. Richard Walker in Florida to see if the cause is genetic. Nikki Freeman is about to have an MRI scan, for which he needs a general anesthetic.
Just going to pick you up and put you on a seat, Nick. Is that all right, mate?
Doctors get Nikki's younger brother, Lloyd, to convince him to lie on the MRI gurney. They then sedate him briefly with gas.
It's okay, mate.
Once he's unconscious, they hook up an intravenous anesthetic for the hour he'll be in the machine. For Lloyd, it's a disturbing moment.
I know that things can go wrong when people go under an anaesthetic. I know my heart was pounding and I was definitely shaking. It'll be good when it's over.
In the scanner, Nikki is bombarded by a magnetic pulse 5,000 times stronger than the Earth's magnetic field. The pulse momentarily realigns the iron molecules in his body to create a 3D cross-section in various shades of gray.
There's his eyes looking straight ahead and his optic nerves coming back. There's his optic nerves right there.
Oh, yeah.
This will reveal any structural flaws in the tissues being scanned. By 3 p.m., the scan is finished, and Nikki is heading to the recovery room. As he's wheeled away, doctors keep a watchful eye on his condition.
I'm feeling his pulse, feeling his breathing, and watching the electronic magic down at the foot of the bed at the same time. As an old anesthesiologist who's been doing this for more than 30 years, before we had electronic gadgetry, I look at the patient first. Yeah, we just...
Usually patients recover from an anesthetic after 15 or 20 minutes. But 40 minutes later, Nikki is still unconscious, and the nurse has to hold his chin to keep his airway clear.
You waking up, Nicholas? You waking up?
It's nearly 4 p.m., and Nikki still hasn't come around. Are Lloyd and Kayleen's worst fears about to come true?
There's always a chance from anaesthetic that something can go wrong, you know, but people can be 100% healthy and things just shut down and that's it, you know.
Finally, after an hour and a half, Nikki regains consciousness.
That's all the work all over and done with, mate.
There's our buddy.
And get up for a cup of tea, Nick?
Pitch some tea from Dr. Someone.
Yeah. No, here we go.
Oh, good man. Here we go.
And 20 minutes later, he's got his appetite back.
Nikki was probably the calmest out of all of us. That's all hard work over and done with, Nick.
The results of the genetic tests and the MRI will take a few days to analyze. Kayleen, Nikki, and Lloyd head back to their hotel to rest.
First blood tests, I was really, really upset because he was upset. But then when they put him for the MRI, everyone was just so wonderful. And Nick complied. You know, he knew that we were doing it for him. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what comes up on the MRI.
They're got their own right there.
Continuing the investigation of his second subject, Gabi Williams, Dr. Walker ordered some genetic tests. Her chromosomes, the structures which contain her DNA, have been analyzed. Because of her obvious disability, Dr. Walker imagined that her chromosomes would also show clear anomalies that would explain her condition. But what he found was staggering.
The result was something quite remarkable. The genetic studies, her karyotype, which is her chromosomal studies, were normal. And when there was a more fine-grained analysis of the characteristics of her chromosomes through a process called microarray analysis, the microarray came back normal as well.
For Dr. Walker, this only deepens the mystery. How could Gabi have such bizarre symptoms and yet have normal chromosomes? Maybe the answer could be a flaw hidden deep in the fine structure of her DNA.
It means that we perhaps have a more cryptic mutation that resides in an area that is not detected by the genetic studies that we're using.
The only way to find this is to sequence Gabi's entire genetic code, a process at the cutting edge of science that will take months to complete. Coming up, after 40 years, Kayleen at last gets some answers with a scan inside Nikki's brain.
That immediately confirms pituitary maldevelopment. This is in the wrong place.
Before we know it.
Nikki Freeman, a 40-year-old man with the body of a 10-year-old, has come to Florida for testing to see if doctors can finally understand the mysterious condition that slows his aging. At the hospital, the tests have been analyzed, and it's time for the family to hear the results.
Dr. Harris, this is Mrs. Freeman.
First, radiologist Dr. Evan Harris talks them through the conclusions from the MRI scan.
Hello, Nicholas. I was told that you wanted to understand the lack of growth. And so I'm going to show you those results now. When we look at the pituitary gland, this is the area where the pituitary gland is when people develop normally. And one thing that we noticed immediately as we started our scan was that a small portion of the pituitary gland, called the posterior portion of the pituitary gland, is actually not in its normal location. And it's located way up here. This is in the wrong place. And that immediately confirms the pituitary maldevelopment.
Nikki's pituitary gland is small and out of position. A normal pituitary sits lower and is a larger structure. The gland controls the body's output of growth hormone, and a malformed pituitary would explain Nikki's slow growth and development.
The pituitary lack of formation happens early in embryonic life. You're talking maybe the first 7 weeks that an embryo is being formed.
The MRI suggests Nikki's brain was damaged in the early months of pregnancy, which would account for his lack of development and would also explain his blindness.
Thank you very much.
Meeting you. I hope we gave you some answers.
Kayleen knows there is probably no cure, but her biggest fear is whether Nikki's condition is genetic and could be passed down the generations. The answer is provided by chromosome analysis.
The examination of Nikki's chromosomes didn't show anything except a normal male. There was nothing genetically there that would account for his condition. I think then we can say that the damage to his pituitary occurred either as the result of your exposure to some environmental influence or some stress during pregnancy. It's at least a relief to know this has no genetic basis, so your other children probably don't have any cause to worry.
After 40 years, Kayleen has the answers she so desperately wanted.
You say thank you to Doctor, eh? Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
After Dr. Walker explained everything to us, Nikki got off my lap and went over to Dr. Walker and sat on his lap, and I just felt that was just so eloquent that he sort of said, okay, thank you, Dr. Walker, and now we know what it's all about. Mum knows, and I know, so. And it was just wonderful.
The Freeman family at last have an explanation. Nikki's condition is not genetic, and it's unlikely he'll live for hundreds of years. But the Williams family is still waiting. The testing done so far has shown that unlike Nikki, Gabi's pituitary and growth hormone levels are normal, and so are her chromosomes. Her condition, although similar to Nikki's, must have a different cause.
So our next step is to actually sequence the entire genome of Gabi to see if we can identify damage or mutation of genes that may have affected her development.
This is cutting-edge science and will entail mapping around 25,000 genes spread along the billions of molecules contained in each strand of her DNA. It's the first time it's been done for someone with this condition, and it could provide a breakthrough into understanding the mechanism of aging.
If we could find the gene that controls development and perhaps also controls aging, it gives us the ability not only to live longer, but also to control diseases that are age-related.
The investigation of Gabi's condition is ongoing, but it's just possible she could unlock some of the mystery of why we all age and die. With their quest over, the Freemans have one last leg of their journey. On the way home, they're stopping off in Montana to meet the Williams family and little Gabi. But first, Kayleen wants to show Nikki something he's never experienced before. Snow.
Like ice cream, Nick? No,
Yeah, right.
It's certainly different, but not necessarily a hit.
No, it's definitely been some experiences, I think, for Nikki, which he never would have had before. And we just need to give him quality of life, and that's, I think, the best thing we can do, isn't it, Mr. Nick? Our little snowman. Little snowman, Nick.
Finally, the Freemans get to Billings to see the Williams family, one of the handful of families in the world who might understand what they've been through.
Here we are. Well, this is our Mr. Nick. And this is Mary Margaret.
Mary Margaret, yes.
This is our Gabrielle.
Hello, little Gabi. My golly. Hello, gorgeous. How are you?
Can you say hi?
Today.
Say hi.
Today.
Having heard how much Nikki loves horses, the Williams family have arranged a special treat for him. A ride in cowboy country.
Leg over, Nick. You're sitting on the horse, sweetheart. There you are. There's the pommel. See? Yes. Nikki's like a little Buddha. Yeah. You know, he just sort of gives off that love. Yeah. There's a terrific amount of love there, you know.
It's been an extraordinary journey for these two families, sharing the remarkable experience of living with a child who never seems to grow old.
And she's smiling. Yes. Lovely little love bundle, hey?